Our mission at ServiceNow is an ambitious one. It's to make the world work better for everyone. Our AI-enabled platform offers apps that can predict issues, automate processes, and create time for innovation. We're proud to state that over 85% of the Fortune 500 have modernized their technology with us. They pursued digital-first business models and are enabled to innovate at scale and with ample speed. From an employee workflows or HR service delivery perspective, ServiceNow offers individual contributors and people leaders a single digital front door to walk through. And from that front door, they can gain access to personalized information, services, knowledge, support, and much more. From advanced and secure HR case and knowledge management, legal service delivery, workplace service delivery, employee document management, and our Gen AI Now Assist capabilities, our trusted AI-enabled platform enables people to do their best work. When innovation works, the world works. Now for the speakers, I am Mike Piccoli, an advisory solution consultant here at ServiceNow covering employee workflows. Joining me are representatives from an incredible partner, Will from the Anti, and an outstanding innovative customer, Courtney from QRG. Will, I'll invite you to introduce yourself. We'll pass it to Courtney, and then I'll invite both of you to take it from here, if that's okay.
Thanks, Mike. Will Finnegan, managing partner here at the Anti. Been with the Anti pretty much since the beginning, which scarily is coming up on almost 7 years. Have devoted all of that to focusing on employee workflows with the ServiceNow platform, and have a history of other HR and IT related roles in the Workday ecosystem with recruiting platforms like iCIMS and a litany of other fun, random tech related jobs. So Courtney, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Will. I'm Courtney Zaun. I am our Senior Manager of HR Digital Experience at Qurate Retail Group. And I've been with the company for a little over 11 years, all of my time in the HR tech space. Prior to that, generalist work and some retail experience. And so kind of made me a really good fit for the company. And I've been really lucky to get to do some really fun things in my career. And this is one of them.
Awesome. So we'll move into the bulk of the, oh, please, my bad.
No, sure, fine. I'll tell everybody a little bit more about Qurate Retail Group. Most people don't know us, but they do know some of our brands. And so QVC and HSN are two of our largest brands, but we do have 6 leading retail brands. And all of them are really dedicated to providing a more dedicated way for a human shop, a little bit more personal in that. We are the largest player in e-commerce, and we are a Fortune 500 company. We're global, and then we have our channels that are broadcast across streaming experiences, websites, mobile apps, social. We have print, and we do have some in-store destinations. So we've kind of got the gamut of retail when it comes to how we get products out the door and how we meet our customers. So our team has been on a transformation journey from an HR technology standpoint. Prior to 22, we did some implementation with Workday, 2015. We implemented ServiceNow HR right as it came out as a new product. So that was around the 2017 timeframe. Shortly after that, IT came in. So we are a little different in that HR started the relationship with ServiceNow, and then we brought IT in with us after the fact. And we have spent several years really kind of globalizing our operations, our people team, and consolidating platforms. And so both, Workday and ServiceNow were critical in kind of how we got that out the door. We'd spent so much time getting stuff out the door that we didn't really have time to stop and focus and think about our customer, think about our team members. And so the transformation journey has really been about that. It's been thinking about our team members. We did a lot of time trying to understand who our team members were. And in 22, we decided that we were going to move forward in building a HR portal that was really personalized and built for our team members, and less about just a service portal that was out there to take requests from our team members. And so we have about 20,000 team members that are using that employee engagement platform. We have developed a really robust HR taxonomy for both our services and our knowledge. We have successful integrations with Workday and Kronos, and more on the way. And then we're really supporting kind of the enhanced service delivery model that is important for our business operations in Qurate.
You know, Courtney, hearing about all of those technologies that are out there, what ultimately led you to choosing ServiceNow as that platform for transformation and engagement over some of the others that are out on the market?
Yeah, so we actually had a kind of wide open opportunity when we did this work. Leadership had said, let's do what's right. And so we had the opportunity to look at what was already in-house or go look third party. And when we thought about the team member experience, we thought about where are they already going and where do they already need to be getting help? And so that was ServiceNow for us. And so it was actually a pretty easy conversation within the technology team as to what we were going to bring forward. ServiceNow is innovating on their experience platform. They are allowing us to do some really great things. It provides a consistent framework for us. And our team members were already sort of familiar with the operational model of I need to go get help. And so what we decided is that that would really be where we would spend our time and expand that experience for them.
And as you were making that selection to really invest in ServiceNow, what else were you looking for to help on that journey in terms of finding the right partner, in terms of thought leadership? What drove those decisions for you?
Yeah, so a lot of that really came from just some analysis that we had kind of done internally. So we spent some time talking to our team members and really understanding where do they struggle, what do they need, what are they missing, what would make their life easier. The number one thing that we heard is, I don't know where to go when I need to do something. As those of you that have multiple platforms, you know that you search one thing in one place and you have to search something different to get to that item elsewhere, and something different in the third system and the fourth system. And so we knew that we had to change that. We also knew that we didn't have all of the talent internally to be able to do it, strictly from a capacity and bandwidth standpoint. And so we went out and we started looking at some third-party vendors. We also wanted to get some non-biased view into our tenant. We know why we made decisions. Doesn't mean we should keep them, and doesn't mean they're the right ones. And so we went out and did some research, and we landed with the Anti because they were really forthcoming in their view about HR. So it's very different from what we've seen in a lot of other service providers. We've had 2 or 3 other service providers in the course of our experience with ServiceNow, and landing on the Anti just allowed us to have a little bit different conversation, having people who understood the team member experience, understood each of the different types of things that happen in HR, understand the difference between a development plan and a performance review. Things that we didn't have to do a lot of translation on that language allowed us to be more effective. It allowed us to move faster. And frankly, the work that came out, we could just turn around and share with leadership. We didn't have to go through and kind of scrub it, make it make sense to leaders, because it was already in their language. So I think that made a huge difference for us in our ability to be agile and to move quickly.
And that was the first step on our journey together, was that review and recommendation. And as we start to look at the timeline that we've shared together over the last 2+ years, coming out of that review and recommend, where we took a look at what was already deployed in the platform, ways to make incremental improvements, how did all of those recommendations from those, how did you determine the timing of what to implement and when?
Yeah, so it was actually a lot of conversations on our side. So from an HR tech standpoint, we kind of knew where we wanted to go first. We had done the research with our team members, kind of knew what they were saying. And so for us, we were really hoping to head, straight into the ESC and really get a portal out. But when we started looking at business, we actually realized we had a little bit of a larger win in supporting our employee relations and ethics and compliance teams. And so we actually kind of paused what we were hoping to do, because it was the fun and exciting stuff and we knew it would make the biggest difference day to day, and spend some time really working on the compliance things and the foundational things that were important.
What were some of those compliance items and challenges that you were looking to solve quickly? And, you know, as you think about employer relations as that next step to meet those business needs, how would you define the working relationship that was established?
Yeah, so interesting for us, you know, we have employee relations that reports through the people team, and then ethics and compliance, which doesn't. But those two teams partner together a lot. And so we had a tool, we had resourcing, bandwidth, and the skill set within the team to be able to bring that into the employee case table, COE table within ServiceNow. So what was cool about it was they were on a platform that was outdated, it was end of life. It was a significantly higher cost, which made it a great ROI story. And it didn't have a real-time integration. So when they were trying to get data, or when people were coming and going from the organization, which when you have distribution and call center is an everyday occurrence, it made it really hard for them to feel confident in the data that they were getting from their previous system. And so we knew that because we already had some of those integrations in place, that we could very easily solve some of those pain points and do it at a much lower cost. And so we spent a couple of months working on that with them, got them stabilized. They've been able to do some of their reporting much easier. They don't have to take it out and finagle it in Excel like they used to. And because we put it on the COE case table, we were able to lock down security to like the umpteenth degree. And there are places where there's like 2 people that can see data. And so that was really helpful for us and a big win for our business.
Absolutely. And I want to pull on a thread of that theme and talk a little bit about data for a minute, because it sounds like you are incredibly proud of being able to do that reporting and have that security. You know, what else are you proud of with the platform that you have now?
So I think there's a couple of things. So where we landed, you know, we got to a point where we knew that what we were doing was putting the team member first. So that was something that was new, and we had some kind of uphill conversations around that. You know, HR is really good at providing a service to the business. And so I'll be honest, a lot of our knowledge articles and everything were written, here's what HR needs you to know. And it wasn't always providing the right context for our team members. So we've done a huge shift, and we've seen it start happening and playing out in other areas of the business, where instead of just saying, here's what HR needs you to know, it's, okay, I'm an end user. Let's pretend I've never had any experience with this whatsoever. I'm a brand new hire. I have no idea what our PDR process looks like. That's now built in the platform to show life cycle of what it is, using some of the microsite options, and really kind of walk them through and help them understand the context of what's happening, as well as get the help and support or the policies or the, you know, answer case tickets, et cetera, that they need. But we made it in a way that really was more towards the team member. And so that was the biggest thing for us, was really being able to think about our customer in a way that we never have before.
Yeah, having that very human-centered focus and that intuitive design absolutely plays into it. And you know, I know some people love hearing the words case deflection, and some people are starting to shy away from it a little bit. You know, but that's huge value, because it allows your people team to be a little bit more strategic in the things that they're doing. What
Yeah, and I'll add one piece. Sorry,
Go ahead,
real
please.
quick. I'll add one piece to that. So our service delivery team, we have an amazing team that sits in Poland and does a lot of like the case tickets. They do a lot of our process day-to-day work, data quality. And that team is now able to use the data to be able to start having those conversations with the business to say, here's the kinds of questions that are coming in. Here are the knowledge articles that are getting the highest reviews. Here's the knowledge articles where people are giving it a thumbs down and saying, this isn't working for me. So it allows us to have a single place where we can start pulling all of that together. Now, I'll be honest that we don't have it all figured out. We've got a long way to go in that, but there's a lot more optimism that I have in it than I would have, you know, 2 years ago.
And that actionable strategy is huge. And you know, when we think about it, and I'm going to steal some of the famous words from ServiceNow, crawl, walk, and run, even though I like to insert a croc every now and again, somewhere in the middle of that beginning. You know, seeing that strategy come to life and being able to be proactive now instead of reactive, that's got to be a huge benefit to the, to Qurate. Are there other things that have been realized as a result of putting more power into the fingertips of those teams?
Yeah, so a really tactical experience that we have is, we talk about kind of how our business interacts with HR. We have a lot of our business that relies heavily on our HR business partners, or we call them our people and work partners. The goal of those team members is really to be leading strategic direction with the business, but a lot of times they're also the face that everybody knows. And so they get a lot of, how do I complete a job change transaction in Workday? How do I change my address? Where do I update my taxes? So they get a lot of those tactical questions. And so what we've heard is that a lot of our P&O partners now are going, hey, that's out on Team Up. You can go find it yourself, and the search works really well. And so it gives them a way, when appropriate, obviously, they're not doing it everywhere, but when appropriate, it gives them a way to kind of help people be able to get what they need. And there's a whole lot more trust in the information, because we spent several months digging through several hundred knowledge articles, putting them in a standard format, making it so that team members knew what to expect when they looked at an article, and get information that makes sense and gives them the whole picture.
And what's been the response from the, day-to-day employee in terms of that new experience and that new support model?
Yeah, so when we've talked to team members, a lot of them have been like, it's kind of just very quickly been ingrained in just another like successful tool for their day-to-day. We'll ask about something like, oh, I can get that on Team Up. Like it's built this level of trust that wasn't there previously. And so that's, for me, a huge win that my team has accomplished in really being advocates for this. I think that's probably one of the most important things, is that advocacy and understanding where you're going. So a lot of team members have just kind of adopted it as day to day. And then we have had some teams that are like, this works really well. Can we put our data in there as well? Can we put our job dates in there? People outside of HR, by the way, that are coming and going, hey, I know people are able to find things. Can we put our stuff there also? And so, yes, we're working on that, stepping in slowly and in the right places, because right now it is just HR focused for us. We know IT can come in and join us. They have some other things going on that it's not their top priority right now. And then obviously there are other areas of the business that could come in, but the fact that we've had people come to us because they see that it's working without us having to, solicit that has been really cool too.
That's awesome. And now, how do you see this revamp of knowledge, of content, of, essentially the things that answer questions? How is that playing into what's ahead for you, into expanding, the HR module? And I know you mentioned IT. How do you see all of this playing together with what's on your future roadmap?
Mm-hmm. So there's two big things. So one, from just a general HR business roadmap, what we've done is we've made it easier for each of our individual COEs to complete their projects and roll out whatever's new. So if I'll pick on performance again, since it seems to be where my brain is, but from a performance standpoint, if we're rolling out changes to our annual review process, or we've built new tools around, maybe one-on-one conversations for a leader, there's no question of, where do I put this? How do I get it in front of people? Do I attach it? Do I not? We've made it really easy for the business. They build their content. We've already given them a template as to how to build that content, so they don't have to think about it. They know that we have a single source of truth. So everybody knows you don't download an article, you don't attach an article, you use your permalink. And so all of our emails that go out have permalinks to that link. So in the future, if something changes, there's a typo, there's humans still behind this. If somebody goes back to that email, they're always going to get an active link. They're not going to get something that's outdated, that's wrong. And so from a business standpoint, they have a lot less thrash of, oh, well, that's not the right version, or you don't need to, get it there. So that's really helped them in actual execution. From our side, the work around knowledge is really helping us get set up for some enhancements within our service delivery model, being able to pass down work and train people easier. We have both internal and external knowledge that we've put this governance on. It allows us to upskill our teams faster. And it's really helping us start to build the pathway of AI. So if we're going to ask a chat bot to answer questions, we know that the data that it's pulling from for that is the right data, is accurate, and is complete. And so as far as like that expansion piece and the fun new toys, we're really getting set up to the point that our data that's being used for that is clean and is successful, and everybody's managing it on an ongoing basis, not just annually because we send them a notice that says, hey, is this still correct? Let me just go press the approve button and not actually look at it.
Well, if only there was an easy button for everything, right? So, as we look at further what's ahead, I want to pick again on, things, those systems that are in your architecture. What really made you make the decision to say, ServiceNow is my system of engagement? And I know that you've kind of hit a few of these themes already, but why not some of the other options that are in your tech stack? And, when we think about the obvious one, Workday, what's your vision going forward, knowing that both platforms are going to persist? And how are you making decisions around which is the right place for which actions?
Yeah, so we had a long conversation around, do we build everything in ServiceNow and just cut off access to all of our other systems? And Will and I kind of had some long conversations even just about this. And so we had a conversation really around, considerations around maintenance of if we're going to build all of those individual integrations to every business process in Workday. One, there's the maintenance on it, but two, when we decide to go to a different learning platform, we now have to redo all of that work. So it makes our ability to be agile less successful, because now we not only have to implement a new platform, but we also have to go in and touch all of these other workflows. So that was part of the conversation. The other was really that ServiceNow gave us the ability to build what made sense for our organization, to be able to name it in our language. Some platforms give you a dictionary where you can override a term and call it something else, but we were able to really build everything in QRG language. We don't say employees, we say team members. We have team member resource groups, et cetera. And so it made it really simple that we didn't have to have all of this other complexity around trying to make it use the language of our business. And then again, like, we had a great contract with ServiceNow. It's used heavily by our services team. And so it also allowed us to not have our services teams doing some work in one area and then something else in another area. We can kind of collapse everything together and use the benefits of all the connection points that already exist in ServiceNow without having to create something custom.
And as you think about your vision for that interaction layer, what do you see on the roadmap? I know we've had some conversations around doing things like a single inbox where you can complete approvals and get notifications from other platforms. What is helping to inform those decisions?
Yeah, so again, experience is a large portion of it. That has been our driving factor in this. Again, very different for us in that, but I think it's led us to be successful. Really thinking about what do we need our managers spending time doing? What do we need our managers looking at? And using that as part of our decision making. So, those other retailers that are on here know that you're constantly trying to clear the way so that those teams can do what they need to do. And so if you're constantly asking them, to go do an approval, then where am I going for that approval? How am I getting to it? If I have 4 approvals and I've got to go to 4 different systems, all of those are time. Yes, it's 30 seconds here and 45 seconds there, but that's when people know where things are, or their email's really clear on where they're supposed to go or what they're supposed to do. And so our vision is really to be able to say those things where we just need a leader's eyes on something, let's move those approvals into ServiceNow. Let's give them the context of what they need and the important pieces of information and allow them to approve it there. Workday is never going away. Our expense management system is never going away. Learning is never going away. Those are still systems of transactions where all of our users have to interact and have stuff they need to do. But being really clear on what is something I just need to make quick information on versus if I'm looking at a whole topic page and all the things that are going on, if I have something to do and an action, let that page tell me where I need to take that action and deep link into that system, that platform, that training, so that we're removing some of that friction for our users. So we'll continue to expand on that with the inbox, other ideas that come up. We have some custom widgets that are kind of being tossed around as ideas, again, to help people get, hey, you got a lot of PTO in there. Maybe you should go take some time off. And then to actually take you to that system to do it. Let's not maintain the integration between the two to do it in ServiceNow, but get them to right where they need to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think about the widget that you're mentioning, pulling in the time off balance and putting it right at their fingertips. That's one of those interactions that is so top of mind for most of the team members, and that immediately changes the game. It's a great experience to see it there graphically represented for you and makes decisioning easy for them. And as we think about, that incremental improvement going across from, Employee Service Center to now Employee Center, and we, bring it back to look more holistically at the platform, what are some of the other things that you're getting excited about and looking forward to leveraging?
Yeah, so we have a whole other set of work that came out of the review and recommend from the anti, which is where we're going next. So when we implemented ServiceNow HR, it was on one of the very early versions of the platform. And so a lot of the new fields or enhancements that have been made, the COE case tables just didn't exist when we implemented. We implemented very quickly, got out the door because we had some real needs to support the business. But I'm excited because we're going to get to take a step back and we're going to get to rebuild some of those, moving things to the right COE case tables. We've already kind of started toying around with what that could look like. We have a meeting coming up with the anti to do some more brainstorming around that. We can already see how reporting is going to be even better for us. Really being able to align it to how our service team in Poland is looking at changing the way they work. So they've got some maturity things that they're working on, and we're going to really be able to kind of come in behind them on that. And then also getting out of some of the custom fields and business rules and things that we wrote early on because we had to, that at this point are just slowing us down. And so it'll allow us to be more agile. It'll allow us to be able to build things faster. And so having that governance in place for those, record producers, how we use the COE case tables and everything is just going to allow us to be more agile as new programs come out within HR or priorities change. It's just going to allow us to be able to be that much quicker at being successful in supporting those.
I'm going to, again, pull some words out to help us with the theme, being quicker, being more agile. Yeah. And as we look at the future, Gen AI, how are you planning to leverage what ServiceNow is delivering?
Yeah, so we have some budget conversations, I'll be frank. We don't have approval yet at this point, but I am working on my business case. The biggest thing for us is really starting to look at some of the, we mentioned the agent chat, the Gen AI chat. That's a huge win for us. We are 24/7 operation, 364 days a year. We're global. And so it's really hard to make sure that you're supporting that and expensive to make sure you're supporting every person at every point in time. So that agent is a big win for us. But also some of the new things that I'm seeing around being able to help write knowledge is a big thing for us. We have a lot of articles. We have a lot of business units. If we start going outside of HR, it just gets bigger. And so some of that is really where we're looking to kind of start building our ROI, or excuse me, building our business case around some of that ROI that we could really get with the Gen AI.
And business case aside, what else are you doing to prepare for the journey?
Sorry, which journey? Just our future or the Gen
journey? Going towards Gen AI. Like I know we've talked about data cleanup and new content, but is there, what else is in your bag of tools that you're looking to leverage?
For us right now, the biggest focus is really on that knowledge. There are a lot of gaps that still exist for us. And so we have gaps, especially with some of our international markets where they're really small teams. They don't have the same amount of data that's available for our US teams. And so for us, maybe less about the content, or excuse me, the quality of the articles, and more making sure we have the breadth of those, as well as making sure that we have the information that we need to know who's interacting with the system to make sure we're getting them the right information. Really kind of ticking and tying on some of those things. I'm hoping that it makes it a really easy turn on for us, all of this front end work that we're doing on it, but lots of conversation really around that and what that looks like. And honestly, as an organization, we're still figuring out the right place to be using Gen AI, where we should be building, where should we not. But from our side, we wouldn't go, why would we go build something when ServiceNow has already done that lift for us? And we're benefiting from everything else that other customers are already kind of feeding into that algorithm and helping to.
Awesome. Any other thoughts about the future?
No, we got a lot of work left to do. So we've done some really awesome things, but we've got some back end stuff to do, which is kind of going to feel a little bit thankless for the team. Because it isn't going to make a huge difference day to day in an end user for a team member. But where it's really going to start to set us apart is the ability to support our business units and say, here's the kinds of questions that are coming through. And we feel confident that they're coded the right way. And we feel confident that we can slice and dice by all the different areas of the business to help them diagnose problems. So it becomes another tool for our P&O partners, which we've never had before. And our service delivery team in Poland is really kind of helping us drive some of those efficiencies and make sure that we have another group coming alongside of us and really thinking about those implications.
Awesome. And thinking about how you're going to approach all of that, I'd like to jump us to that next topic of, lessons learned, takeaways. I mean, you've worked with more than just the anti on this. What advice would you give some of the other organizations that are on the call today, key lessons learned as they prepare on their journeys?
Yeah, so I think you've heard me say it. Our number one thing was the employee experience. Our big thing was really about creating trust for our team members so that they knew they had a place to go where they could get the help and support that they needed. Hard one was really the focus on better, not perfect. There are lots of areas where we don't have great knowledge, and we tried really hard for Go Live to get that out there. What we've now found is, now that we're live, the people that were like, oh, I don't know, we're not going to be able to spend time on getting more information. We'll just clean up the 1 or 2 articles that we had. Now that we're live and they're starting to see some of that, we've got teams going, maybe we do need to spend some more time on there. Can you train us? And can you get us more information on how to do this? And can we put this in here? And so we're getting more buy-in now that we're live. So while it wasn't exactly where we were hoping it would be when we went live, it's constantly changing, and we've already changed the mindset of the HR team that this is not a put something out there and only come back to it when the expiration date comes up and I start getting bombarded with notifications that I need to go press the approve button. But they're really starting to see it as a tool, and it's helping them get better data quality in their processes because we're telling people what things mean in a way that we weren't before.
I love that. I love that analogy. I call it the easy bake oven, set it and forget it. It's unfortunately not the reality.
Doesn't work very well. So technical debt, this is probably personal for us. We created a lot of technical debt when we first went live. So now we're undoing a lot of that. And so we made sure to not do that. We did out of the box as much as we could, with the exception of the actual portal design. We did make some decisions there where we decided if we do something and it reverts poorly due to a ServiceNow upgrade, that's not a deal breaker. That's not a showstopper for us. We do have the ability to fix it. It's also easier to fix spacing on a widget than it is to go through and, something with a record producer when you're trying to move through that testing. So when we're creating technical debt, we're being very intentional about what the impact is if it fails. So for us, is the juice worth the squeeze? That was a big one for us. So many ideas and so many people coming with ideas. We had some really great advocates along the way, which I would highly recommend that you have, and can't do everything. Have to really think about what's the impact, what's the timing, what's the level of effort, and what's the maintenance on it. I think that's been the biggest thing for us is if something goes wrong or somebody puts something in the wrong spot, is that okay? What does it look like to undo that, to fix that? And so that's been a big piece of our decision making along the way. Support for HR and IT. So HR is the only one currently using that portal. And so we've had lots of conversations with IT about what does it look like if they are to come in. We built our taxonomy in a way that we can bump it down and be able to bring IT into the platform with us and really use it to its full power. And then they have helped with some of our testing. They've helped with some of our integration work, some troubleshooting kind of along the way. So we've got a really good partnership with them. And then the configure, don't customize, that goes a lot, with what I kind of shared about the technical debt of really, making the decisions on where you're going to spend time. It's not worth it to do crazy customizations on the back end, but you do really have to make sure that your stakeholders understand what their parameters are and what their boundaries are. And you have to set those ahead of time, because if you walk into a meeting and they tell you want to do something and you don't already have kind of your ways of working and your governance in place, it's going to be really easy for them to say, yeah, but I don't like that, I need you to do this. And it just becomes a more difficult conversation. So having that governance around where you will configure and customize is going to be huge.
What do you think has surprised you the most on your journey with ServiceNow?
So one, I think what's been nice for us is the speed of just new things that are coming. It's hard for us to consume them. We are not on the current model right now. And so there's a lot of kind of watching what's next and what's coming, and it's really easy to get distracted. So I think that's been a pleasant surprise for us, is as we kind of start talking and thinking about what could be next, ServiceNow almost always has kind of a conduit for us to be able to bring that forward. So that's been great. I think just from the overall project, what's been the most surprising is just the advocates that we've had. So again, we spent a lot of time talking about why we need to do this work for our team members, why consistency makes sense for our businesses, why it makes it easier for them to roll out work. And we did some early just kind of change readiness assessments and kind of made some assumptions as to where we would have advocates in the business and potentially which areas maybe would be a little bit more lagging in their adoption. I think we were surprised by areas that we thought would maybe be a little bit more lagging, kind of being some of our best advocates. And we spent the time with them, and they understand it. They understand where we're going. They understand why we're doing it and how it benefits them day to day. So that was, that upfront work really paid off for us in a way, and in some surprising places.
Yeah, that narrative of being able to describe what's in it for me to all of your customers, regardless of if it's the end team member or your partners in different orgs, is really powerful. And to your point, surprising when you have people that you think are going to be laggards being the ones that are pushing the envelope.
Yes. Yep.
As you think about all of the good that's come with this, there's always missteps, right? Is there anything that you would do differently about the way that you've approached making decisions around ServiceNow, other platforms, around the implementation itself?
So I think we spent a lot of time up front really working through the platform and working through the decisions and how we were going to move forward. But I don't think I would change any of that. I think I probably would get some more change advocates further into the business sooner. I think that would have helped us in some of our rollout. We do have a higher level of adoption and a higher level of repeat customers. We also have noticed a huge decrease in the number of double searches. So somebody will search for something, they don't find it, they go back and search again. That has almost dropped off. So the people who are getting there, I think, are really seeing the value. I think what I would have, if we would have had more time or the option, would have really been, how do we get it deeper into the organization and how do we ingrain it from the beginning in people's day-to-day, as opposed to right now, we're kind of constantly slow feeding them with communications or with programs that are rolling out. And it's not that it's a bad thing. I just think it would be, an opportunity for us to be able to do that better next time.
Awesome. And, knowing that this is that constantly evolving platform, and we're moving very quickly with, the speed of updates, besides continued work in the platform to get into those COEs. What else is on the roadmap besides, again, getting back to basics, getting a stable platform?
Yeah, so some of the big things that we're working on right now are really those next level of governance. So making it easier and making it more of a service for our business. So right now, if somebody needs to request a new case type, we kind of are just doing what's needed in the moment. We're a little less strategic about that. So as we move into the work that we're coming up to next, that's going to be huge for us. Helping people understand, okay, this is an example, but it's one of the things we're talking about. Okay, so you have a question. So this is what a case form for a question looks like. These are the kinds of things that need to be on every one. Or you're asking for help with a transaction. You really want the person who's receiving the ticket to do something for you. That's going to look a little bit different. We're going to have to collect information up front on those things. And so as we work on some of those, we're anticipating that we're going to get a lot of the efficiencies on the HR side that we're starting to see for our team members and their ability to find information. And so that'll be exciting. It's going to hopefully help the HR team be able to be more agile, move work through, not spend time on trying to learn something that's technical and kind of doesn't matter to them. They don't tend to have a lot of stake in the game on how a case form looks. Some of them do, but I think helping them be more efficient is going to be a big win for us with this next phase of work. And so we're excited about how that's going to really enable the people team to start functioning differently and move through things and not feel like they have to recreate the wheel or have long conversations about record producers that means nothing to them. So
love it. Well, really appreciate you taking the time to talk us through some of these lessons learned. I know we have a bunch of questions that have come in while we've been talking. Are you ready to tackle some of these?
Sure.
Awesome. So from Anonymous, can you share more about how you are using the integration with Kronos and payroll?
Yeah. So we don't have a direct integration with payroll at this time. But for Kronos, what we're doing is we're actually using, Kronos has an API, and we are using that API to pull real-time balances for our team members of their different types of PTO. So PTO or holiday pay, whatever it may be, depending on the user. And so every time the ServiceNow homepage refreshes, it does an API pull of that Kronos data over into a widget. And what we've actually done is we've built that widget to look just like the Kronos widget. So they are seeing something that they're used to seeing, something they expect to see. And that really kind of helps us create that. What's additional is we have on the bottom a button that says go to Time Hub, which is our internal name for our Kronos. And it takes them over to that page in Kronos where that widget, or excuse me, where that bar chart for us of those times exists. Or it says get help with Kronos. And so it takes them to our overview article that talks about Kronos, talks about how you request time off, and talks about those other things. So front and center there for everybody. The two biggest actions that somebody should take or might take when they see that are right there for them on that homepage, and very personalized because it's a real-time poll every time. From the payroll side, while we don't have an integration, what we do have are deep links into our payroll system. So if somebody says, I need to update my address, they update their address in Workday. And we actually have used Workday's deep link, and they click on the box that says, take me, change my address. They click on the back box and it actually opens a new window for them directly within that transaction in Workday. And so while it's not an integration on the back end, it's a URL, team members don't know any different. And they say, oh, I need to change it. And it knows where I need to go. It takes me to that. And payroll's not, or I'm sorry, Workday's not one of them. But if we have a system where one brand has to go to one place, and another brand has to go to another place, those are provisioned on the back end to know who I am as a user and my criteria that will take me to the system of my brand, not just the global brand.
Awesome. I'm going to try to condense a few of these into smaller, smaller topics for us to cover.
Sure.
Can you describe where your development team sits in terms of the business, and then also where your content team exists, and if you have a content manager or if COEs are responsible for creating their own content?
Yeah, so I'll start with content. So our COEs are responsible for creating their content. However, we do have global oversight. And that global oversight is really around making sure that we're following the rules that are in place, writing well, making sure we're bringing the right templates forward, making sure we're thinking about the team member, using the right words. And so we have a workflow. So the COEs are responsible for it. And then that workflow will be a centralized group of people. Right now it's one person working on expanding that, but will be a centralized group of people who are kind of that next level knowledge experts to make sure that we're doing right and putting the right things forward. Those people will also help around, when feedback is received, doing some reporting, doing some analytics, and kind of reporting a little bit more holistically around that knowledge piece.
Are they using the WYSIWYG editor, Courtney, or are they using an external tool to create the content and submitting it through a form, or how are you handling that as well?
Yeah, so we have both. We have some that are using the WYSIWYG, some that are copying and pasting. When there's copying and pasting, those articles tend to get sent back more frequently because there are characters and stuff that show up in there that shouldn't, because Word has something in there. But they are required to submit it through the back end. They have knowledge support roles on the service side of ServiceNow, not on the front end portal. So they do all have that security, and it's a limited 1 or 2 per COE typically.
Awesome. And going back to maintenance of the platform itself, where do your developers sit? Where do John and team sit? How do they partner with IT? And then I'm going to tie into another one after that, similar related to governance as well.
Yeah, so when I kind of look at how HR technology functions in just across the marketplace, I tend to see 2 things. HR technology that sits within IT and is responsible for just doing a lot of the technical configuration. We are actually one of those teams where the HR technology team sits within our people team. And so we have direct peer relationships with all of the COEs that are doing this work. So my team are about 80% of the development work is done on my team or with the Anti and our managed services contract, because they are doing a lot for us right now because the amount of work coming in. But my team is also responsible to be business analysts, to understand what's going on, to understand the data, to be able to dig into the data, to understand why problems are happening, which helps us bring forward a better product. There are some things that we do have to partner with IT on because we are not platform admins. And so anything that has platform access or has platform implications, we partner with them. They have their intake form, and we work directly with them for them to bring it forward. They then decide, are they going to bring it to the whole platform, or can they kind of segregate it off for the HR team? So we do probably between 80 and 90% of our development work, but they do more than develop.
Awesome. And oh man, I think this one's a doozy, but I think it's going to be great for our audience. When seeking approval from the business to move forward with HRSD, can you share some of the value points that really resonated? Are there data points on productivity, soft and hard costs, and how do you define a better experience for your team members?
Yeah, so so the initial question around seeking to move forward with HRSD. So we were at a pivotal point in our business where our previous platform was not working. And so we were going global. It just didn't support that. So in that piece, we lucked out of that. Was really kind of our conduit. But when we talk about ongoing ROI and ongoing value for the business, there's a level of separation within the HR platform, having HRSD versus putting HR in ITSM. There's a whole different level of segregation that happens. And so for us, because of the kind of data that comes in, that protection, the data minimization, some of our GDPR, of who should have access to what data, that's all part of our ongoing conversations about the value that HRSD provides from a kind of leadership standpoint. I do also think that from a productivity standpoint, we are starting to dive into that a little bit more. We're starting to use the HR agent workspace this year, which is really going to help each of the agents understand more of what are they on point for, where are they. But the one thing I think that's kind of holding us back from being really detailed is around kind of looking at those new cases moving them to the new case tables and looking at everything. That's going to be crucial because in those instances, we're going to redefine service level agreements for all of those. We're going to redefine expectations. We're going to build in, better fulfillment instructions and better attached knowledge, because that then provides that experience for a team member that they call or they open a ticket and that ticket gets resolved faster. The important part with a lot of the service delivery from an HR standpoint is somebody's calling and saying, I need something and I need something now. I'm trying to buy a house. My spouse is having a child. We are adopting. I, need tuition reimbursement. I have a question about my benefits. These are things that are really personal to a team member. And so waiting 3 days for those tickets gets really frustrating. So that's a big thing for us is even thinking about that from an experience standpoint is there's a level of personal and work-life balance, engagement and experience that comes into play in kind of how we provide that service to our team members. I could probably go on and on, but I think we're at time, so I'm gonna
just about. And I want to pull on one last thread to hopefully answer one last question. You talked about all of that personalization and audiencing of content. How does your team keep up with that and make sure that appropriate team members see appropriate content?
Yeah, so we hold our knowledge writers accountable. So if we have, jump back to performance, our performance process is global, minus one country. So that team knows the process that they're doing and the process that they're building information for, they're building context around, they know who it applies to. And so we expect them to tell us who that applies to, and we use it in the can read or can't read criteria within the knowledge. Same kind of thing as intake with a case type. we're debating on case types, it really probably should be a global case. And then depending on the individual user, using that HR criteria to be able to decide who works on that case, as well as is it even a service that our service delivery team in Poland supports, or is it something that's local within the local markets, and then redirecting appropriately from that site.
Really insightful, Courtney, and appreciate you helping answer all of these questions. I know we're coming up on time, so I'm going to hand it back over to Mike to wrap us up and do the giveaway.